welcome to this little how-to video on how to make some ear wires for these little silver clay earrings that I made earlier. So what I'm using is sterling silver or Argentium wire, or fine silver wire for this is too soft. So Argentium or sterling silver wire will do fine. But the most important thing is the diameter of this wire, which is 0.8, and that's enough. That's strong enough to hold the wire and hold its shape, but also it's narrow enough to go through the hole in your ear. Okay, so I'm going to cut two lengths the same length. So I'm going to give myself a bit of wire to work with, and this is going to be fairly approximately. So I'm just going to cut here. So I've got two lengths of wire, slightly different in terms of length, but I'm going to just even them up now. And obviously keep your wire scraps, because they're great for, you can make balls out of these wires. The wires that you have, you cut off, you can ball them up to make silver balls, or you can put them in your waste pot and send them off to the refinery, whatever you prefer to do. Okay, so they're approximately, they're the same length, just checking. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to hold them together, and I'm going to take a pair of round nose pliers, which look like this. I'm going to take the very tip of the wire and just roll it round the wire like that. Okay, so that's your first loop, and that's where this little earring is going to sit. So do that for the end of the second one as well. Exactly the same thing in the same place. So you've got a loop that is equal for your ear wire. The next thing we're going to do is hold these two ends together like that. Take a Sharpie. Sharpies are really good, a good size for this type of job, because it gives a lovely curl and it's enough for round your ears. So we're just going to line them up and decide on how much of a dangle you want your ears to be. You can also decide whether you want the loops to be outwards like this or inwards like this. It's really up to you. And then take the point, how much of a dangle you want, and then just start to fold these earrings round, the earring wires round. And because it's the same length and you're bending them at the same time, they're going to be the same, which is really important, because you want your earring to both hang at the same point. So it's really important that you get that. And then you can just leave them like that. That would be absolutely fine. Or you can then just start to use your pliers to shape them a little bit. And if you hold them in the same place at the same time, this would be easier. So you can bring them in a little bit and shape them so they're a little bit more like so. And it depends how much of a length you want at the back as well. You can have it equal. You can decide on cutting it here. We can bring it up a little bit further up here if you want. It's entirely up to you. I quite like the longer length. So I'm just going to, as they keep them lined up together, like that. I'm going to just make sure that they are absolutely the same. So they kind of are. Yeah, there's just a little bit of a difference. I'm just going to cut that end off again, just to make sure that they are absolutely the same length. And then you can then take your pliers at the end and do a little bit of a bend like that. So there we are. We've got a fairly straightforward and easy pair of ear wires to make. And as I say, I'm going to bend them in. I'm going to push them in a little bit, so I like them a little bit tighter. And always do it together so that your each ear wire bends in the same way. So we've got these ear wires, and now I'm going to take a metal file or a burr cup, and smooth off the ends. So this is what I mean. You can get them in the jeweller's outlets, jeweller's tools outlets, and you put it on the end and you twist. And what that does is it kind of smooths off the end of your ear wire, so that when you touch it, you don't want any sharp edges, because this is going to go through your ear or somebody else's ear, whoever you're doing this for. And you want to make sure it's nice and soft. And I know that sounds a little bit kind of off to say soft, but you know what I mean. The wire, when you're touching it, is soft against your skin. There's no catches, there's no rough edges, and that's what you want for this point. If you don't have one of these tools, it's easy to do that with some sandpaper too. So this is 600 grit sandpaper, so a fairly fine grit, and you're going to take the end and sand it. So you can see I'm pulling towards the outside, and that is basically to get rid of any wire that's rough and hard and sharp. And then we can then take our sandpaper over the top and sort of round it. And just keep doing that until you've got a point which is nice and smooth and does not catch. And use your finger just to trace it over and see how it feels. And if it still feels rough, just keep sanding until it feels better. Okay, so that's just about, that one's pretty much done. And all you need to do from this point, once it's finished, you can polish it up. So put it in your tumbler, or use a flex tool, a flexible shaft tool, to polish your wires up. And when you've finished and it's all ready to go, then you can pop your ear ring on. And close, and there you have. If I can put it in straight and make sure the loop is closed, we'll straighten that up, and there we have an earring with a homemade ear wire. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm going to show you how to make some simple ear wires for some earrings. Now, my previous video I showed you how to make a longer pair of earrings, ear wires like these ones. So I'm going to show you how to do a slightly shorter pair, because these are going to be dangles and they're going to sit like that. They're going to, so they don't need as long a wire for this as this. They need a shorter wire, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to link these two together with a jump ring, and hopefully we'll have a nice dangle. So I've cut 2 lengths of wire that are the same. This is my Argentium wire. I like to use this one because it's nice and it holds its shape. It's nice and firm, but it's also easy to manipulate. And it's a 0.8 wire, which is 0.8 millimeters, which is perfect for the size of a pierced ear. So I'm going to take the wire and just make sure it's absolutely the same size. This does matter, because if you're going to make the two together at the same time, you want to make sure that the wire is exactly the same length. So I'm just putting that together. I'm going to trim off, and I'm trimming off the edges which have been cut to a point. I don't want a point on the wire, I want a straight edge. So make sure you save your little offcuts. They're perfect for balling up and decorating your jewellery, whether that's sterling silver or fine silver jewellery. You can use it on both, or you can put it in your scrap pot and send it off to the refinery. So I'm just going to take this and make a hoop for the wire. Now, one of the things that could be a nice change is to ball the end of the wire first, and you could do that. I'll probably have another video about that at some point. So I'm just going to round the end of the wire, make a loop like that, and then make a second loop for the second piece, just to make sure that they're the same size, and they are. And then we're going to take both pairs of earrings or ear wires, put them together. And hold them together, and I have basically, I've kind of distorted the wire here, so it's lying, as you can see, a little bit skew with. So I'm just going to take the two together, and if this happens to you, as you can see, I'm just going to hold them together and just take my nylon jaw pliers and straighten the wire and hold them tight as you do that, so you can just straighten the wire a little bit and make sure it's sitting nicely. So when you've done that, unloop them, straighten that up a bit, and then we're going to take, now if you've got a pair, you could have a pair of these types of pliers, or you can use a Sharpie, which I like to use because it's a good size. And we're just going to get quite close to this loop this time, and bring them round together. And the good thing about doing this at the same time is that you get the same size at the same point in the wire. And if you want to kind of bring them in a little bit more, I'm going to turn this round because I want this out this time, and I'm going to pinch the top of the wire like that and just pull that in a little bit more. Okay, so it's a little bit more shepherd hook. So gripping the top and pushing it in a bit more. Turn this round so it's facing outwards. And there we have. So play around with this until we've got a loop of the same size. There we go. And I'm going to take them back and put them together and just check on that. Just make sure they're the same, which they're not quite. So using my round pliers here, I'm going to put them in. Hold in the same place. And just curve them around until they're the same. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a tighter loop there and a smaller loop than we had before. Now I'm going to hold them together again, and I'm going to cut them so that there is the same size. I don't want them to be too big. All right, so I've got a little pair of loops, which will do very nicely. And I'm going to give the ends a sand. So we want to sand the ends so they're nice and soft for the ear. And when I mean soft, I don't mean soft, squidgy. I mean nice and the edges are nice and round so that when they're put through the ear, they don't catch on anything. And your finger's the best tool to make sure that that's as it should be. So I'm sanding against the edge, if you can see that. And when I take my finger across it, I should be able to feel if there's any sharp edges, and there are. So we want to kind of sand that, and it shouldn't take you too long, but we want to sand those edges away. So that they are nice and soft for the ear. And once they get to be a nice soft, you can then pop them in the tumbler or polish them up some more with some polishing papers or your Fordham or your Dremel, and make sure they're nice and shiny. And all you need to do is twist. I'll get this on. Oh, it's the wrong hole. There we go. And twist it back into place like that. So I can attach the others together, and I'll show you when I'm done. And there we have it. Earrings, homemade, handmade by yourself, with handmade ear wires, which do that a little bit different than the shop bought ones. So if I can show you, there we go. Beautiful. I hope you found this interesting and useful.